Hey folks, it's Billy DKY, the truth seeker that simplifies and demystifies. This is going to be my top 5 tweets of the week review. April the 25th, 2010, the first tweet of the week. We are individuals and at the same time part of a community, therefore harmony lies somewhere between capitalism and socialism, and as I was growing up as a kid, in America, we're taught that capitalism is the way to go, and socialism and communism is obviously a bad thing, which usually the truth always lies between, or typically lies between two extremes. And basically, like I said, I'm an individual, and I'm responsible for me for the, 90% of the time at least, and then if I start to fall down, then it is a little bit of the people around me's responsibility to help me get back on track. And I sort of like to, like I say, I like to simplify things to its simplest core. So let's imagine a small group of people are on an island, stranded or maybe primitive, whatever. And say there's 5 of us, and the island's pretty small. And let's say we take a socialist view, which everybody's got to care for everybody. We're going to share everything equally and stuff like that. Well, what's going to happen? Well, obviously you're going to have somebody say, well, why should I work? I'm going to get the same no matter what I do. So you can have somebody be self-centered, and that's going to piss the other 4 people off. And then they're going to start withdrawing. They're not going to want to share anymore. And so that's obviously not going to work. Then you take the opposite extreme. Whatever I get is mine, and I'm not going to share any of it with you. And we know that's not gonna be good, because let's say I luck into something. I luck into killing something big, and I'm sitting there eating it all by myself, and you're sitting there eating coconuts when you're wanting some meat. So that's obviously not going to work. So the truth lies somewhere in between capitalism and socialism. And again, if you try, and Lao Tzu said this a long time ago, that which is contrary to the Tao will not last long, or will come to a short end, or something like that. And it's basically that way. Capitalism by itself will not stand on its own, and neither will socialism. If it goes too far one way or the other, it'll come back. And I've been noticing this too in America, that we've been becoming more and more socialized, and really, it's sort of it's just sort of part of the way it goes. So anyway, I think that sort of really ends the debate. It's somewhere in between, and you should avoid the extremes, because if you don't avoid the extremes, you will suffer. Next tweet: habits are once conscious choices that become automatic. Don't underestimate small choices; they can lead to huge things. And I was working on the principle number 3 of following the way to growth, which is discipline, and I was really just questioning, what is discipline? And I come to realize that really discipline is nothing more. Basically what happens with discipline is you have a fork in the road. You can make this choice or you can make this choice. And basically discipline only comes, you can only use discipline when there's a choice to be made. Now, life is nothing but a series of choices, so you're actually having choices all day long, so it's not quite that simplistic, but at the core of any one decision, discipline only happens at a decision point. It doesn't happen, and the reason we call it discipline is we're typically restraining ourselves from something, and that something is ego and pleasure. So typically what people say, we forego this so we can have this later on, or delayed gratification. Like I say, I'm still in the process of working through all this, but basically you're foregoing some pleasure, or egotistical thing for something greater down the line. Anyway, the point is, if you continually make good decisions, and you have a heart towards making good decisions, or like principle 1, you're actually applying yourself to make better decisions, those start to become automatic over time. And they lead to big successes just on the automatic process. And this really came about, the habit thing, because we switched something around in the house here, and I kept going back where it used to be instead of where it was, still where it is now. And I started realizing the power of habits. If you really get in the habit of doing the right thing, it really just starts snowballing. And that goes either way. If you're getting the habit of doing good things, it's going to be awesome for you, and if you do the wrong thing, it's gonna be horrible for you. So Anyway, the power of habits is huge. Do not underestimate it. And again, that goes back to baby steps. If you'll just set your mind in motion to do the right things in small ways, it will start accumulating in huge ways. Again, it's the tree principle revealing itself again. So don't underestimate the power of habits. Tweet number 3, justifiable emotions are harder to get over than regular emotions. I was dealing with this week. You know, I felt justified in being mad or angry, and that's really hard when you feel justified, because you can actually see that the other person is obviously wrong, and it makes it extremely hard to get over because you got a big ego involved in it. But then that brings up a video I was going to do, and it's what's easier. Is it easier to stay mad and angry, or is it easier to get over that ego and just, you know, let go of it? Once you start looking at it, you'll start seeing it's always a lot easier to deal with yourself than it is to try to deal with somebody else. Well, I'm not saying the majority of the time it's easier to deal with yourself, but there is times where you have to deal with other people. And the better you get at dealing with yourself, the better you'll be at dealing with other people. So, again, it's hard to get over justifiable emotions because the ego is so highly wrapped up in it. Okay. And this is another situation that happened this week. I was trying to work through some issues, and I was talking to a typical white person. And I know some people don't like me talking about race. It just, first of all, I'm not really a racist, and second of all, race to me is another description or tool for me to make progress and understand things. So if you take offense to it, it's your problem, really. It ain't mine. Okay, here's what. A white man tells you shouldn't feel that way because he is clinging to goodness, while a wise man will give you advice to conquer. So I was talking about an issue, and he's like, oh, you shouldn't feel that way. I was like, well, I do feel that way, and I got to deal with it. You know, every time on my path, it has never once said, I've never once said, oh, the secret to this conquering this problem is just to push it down, to pretend it don't exist. And I started realizing that's probably why a lot of white people wind up being serial killers, because they just keep pushing stuff down. And you also see this, I think, too, with black people going, more black people in prison. I think that white people store up a lot of hatred instead of dealing with it in the moment, and then they take it out when they're in court cases and stuff. I don't know, but I think that's partly going on. But the point is, it's always about dealing with your issues. It's never about pushing them down. I'm not saying if you feel violent, go out and kill somebody. But I'm saying if you feel violent, don't deny that you feel it. And don't say, oh, I shouldn't feel violent. No, I mean, deal with it. Sit and say, okay, just deal with it. I mean, like I say, use that what is easier. Is it easier to go out and plan a plot to kill this person and actually do it? Or is it easier just to get over it? And, you know, because if you go actually do the murder, then you're going to have to deal with all the, you know, legal troubles and the fears you're always going to get. Or, on this hand, if you just deal with it and realize that, you know, like the Jews used to say, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So, you know, just, it's about dealing with issues. It's not hiding from them or pushing them down. Okay. Tweet number 5. Where you go in life is limited by your issues. If you don't like your circumstances, then change yourself. Or if you don't like where you're going, then you need to change. It's real simple. I don't know, this week, I've just been really seeing how people are so self-limited that they keep themselves trapped by not growing as human beings. And if you don't grow, it ain't like somebody's going to come down out of the sky and pluck you out and put you in a position of power or a position where you really want to be. You know, you got to actually change yourself and have something to say. And it's the same thing with people asking for subscribers and stuff. If you really want more subscribers, then have something good to say. Have something that people actually want to hear and can use. And guess what? They'll start subscribing automatically. It's not something you have to do. Again, follow the tree principle. Focus on having solid content instead of tricking people, and you'll get more subscribers through time. So, that's pretty much it, I think. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Until the next video, before I go, do not get offended by what I'm saying. If it offends you, then you need to look in your ego. And my goal is not to piss people off here. My goal is to seek the truth. And seeking the truth, you have to let things out. And that's just the way it is. Later, folks.